Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
At your confirmation hearing, we had a very good conversation on a number of issues. And one of the things we discussed at your confirmation hearing was that at the time I asked if you would commit during your first 100 days as Secretary to identify at least 3 regulations that were overly burdensome and that were impeding economic growth. And you very graciously responded at the time and agreed to do so. And indeed, what you said at the time was that it's extremely important to look at the regulatory environment and that you would enthusiastically work to identify those regulations that could be either streamlined or repealed to allow for the private sector to generate economic growth. It's now been 100 days, and you're back before the committee, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to report on the progress of those efforts.
Well, Senator, I appreciate that. Let me put it in the context of first the President's regulatory look back and then talk about the things at the Department of Commerce that I've personally looked into. So in the President's regulatory look back, there have been about 500 initiatives to reduce costs and simplify processes, saving about $10 billion. So for example, at the Department of Labor, they simplified hazard warning for workers and yet at the same time added greater safety, and that had a value of about $2.5 billion. What I did at the Department of Commerce is there are a couple of areas, since what we regulate is in certain areas, so I went to the various areas that we regulate and asked, what are we doing to make it easier for commerce to occur? So I talked personally and met with the team, the Undersecretary at BIS. We're in the process of implementing export control reform, where we're moving 1,000 items which had a more onerous licensing process requirement. We're moving thousands, not 1,000, but thousands of items. And what that allows an exporter to do is to export items faster, those that require a license, and they no longer pay a per item fee. But instead, and as well, it also strengthens our defense because it allows for greater interoperability because our allies have been shying away from using American parts because of the licensing process. And so this is helping to make our parts supplying more just easier, frankly. So at BIS, I got very involved in trying to understand what we were doing and working with them, as well as the director of our patent and trade operation. The American Invents Act requires us to provide, more certain and timely patents. And I had explicit conversations personally with the acting director at the time of Patent and Trade Office and talked about, okay, we have this backlog. What are we doing to address the backlog, and what are we doing to create greater certainty in the patents that we are giving so that there's less vulnerability to those who receive them? The patent backlog is affected by a number of things. The number of people that we have to adjudicate patents, and we have a number that can allow us to address the backlog over a couple of years, bring that backlog down to an inventory that we would like, about an inventory of about, right now we have a backlog of about 560,000 patents. We would like to be running with an inventory of, let's call it 350,000 patents. We have about 80,000 patent adjudicators. They can each do a certain number. And so we know precisely how long it will take us to get through get our backlog down. And so I'm very focused on the metrics so that I can pay attention so that we can get, innovation depends on us being able to deliver this quickly. And so I'm working with the director so that, and keeping track of what's happening there. I have to say, sequester is hurting that process because we have, even though we're a fee-for-service, we have money that's sitting in the bank account that we can't access that's affecting our IT spend, which would allow us to get at this a bit faster. So that's a challenge we're facing because of sequester.
Right, let me ask, if I can, one final question, because my time is expiring.
Sure.
But I just came from a gathering of a number of franchisees who are small business owners, owners of fast food restaurants, burger chains, that are experiencing very significant hardship because of the burdens of Obamacare. And they're having difficulties. They're forced to reduce their employees to part-time work, to 29 hours a week, which is impacting the most vulnerable among us. And we've also seen in recent weeks now over 5 million people across this country losing their health insurance, a significant number of whom are small business owners who are in the individual marketplace. And so I wanted to ask your judgment for those 5 million people who are losing their health care. In your judgment, should they be able to keep the plans that they have now?
Well, Senator, you know, I have to confess that hasn't been my area of focus, the precise structure of Obamacare. But what I would say is that the goal is for everyone to be covered, and the goal is for Obamacare has also been set up in a way to bring deficits down. So I think we have to take a bit of the long view right now and get the problems solved that we're facing, so that we can see the programs actually work as intended.
Well, but do you think the people should be able to keep the plans that they had now and that they liked?
Well, I don't, you know, there's a knee bone, shin bone question here, which is what plans, you know, what's available and how does it work, and how does it affect the actuarial numbers. So I don't really know, you know, how to answer a question for 5 million people, except to say that it has to be a system that is integrated, that can work. Obamacare has to offer, you know, make sure that if someone has, you know, a certain quality, the goal is for there to be a certain quality of health care, as well as that it's such that we have enough participants that the insurers can cover everyone.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.